Hey guys, this is John, and I'm playing Curlian in the 5-minute pool on ICC, part 2 of my quest to simply stay ahead of my opponent on the clock. And this time we've got a difficult opponent, Curlian, who has a very high rating at the moment. I got the better of him last time I played him, but it's a new day. You never know what will happen. Okay, so he's got the bishop outside the chain. I'm going to go after that bishop. We'll see if I can snag that piece. F3 looks a little audacious, so I think I'm going to play queen c2 instead. And maybe look to play h3, bishop h5, and g4, and just get that piece. Plain and simple. So let's do that now. Play this. They could maybe move the knight away, but he's just going to agree to the trade. Now I have to watch out for knight takes g4. I think putting the bishop on g2 is sensible, so I'll do that. Now, do I play d4, or do I do something else? Could even castle queenside, but castling queenside seems premature. Let's just play d4. We'll see which way black puts their king. I suspect they'll probably go kingside. They might try to attack me on that side of the board, but I doubt it. Maybe here I could play c5, bishop back, and then f4, but g5 is kind of an issue. All right, I'm going to do this, and then play for f4 immediately thereafter. That or h4. I could also play for h4. Maybe h4 is a better way of playing. Changing my mind a little bit. It sort of depends where this knight goes, but if knight h5, let's say, I think h4 could be the better move. f4 might give an incentive for black to sacrifice on f4. So I'll do h4 instead. Curlian is Carlo D'Amore, international master. Yeah, last time I played this player, I beat him in kind of a nice technical game. But I have a feeling this game's going to be a little more wild. We'll find out. If I were black, I would strongly consider bishop a3 and trying to swap the dark square bishops. Black's bishop is good, but this bishop has potential to be powerful later on. Okay, so he's just going to castle. So I could castle as well. But bishop f3, perhaps? Looking at bishop f3. Or castle short. Okay. I'm torn. I'm torn, guys. Castling short creates certain problems for me, though. All right, let's castle long. I'm not going to spend too much time. My goal is just to stay ahead on the clock, or at least even with my opponent. It's part of a new strategy. Okay, let's close things up. So let's play c5. And I'm thinking of going f4 after this to really lock things up. I know they can transfer the knight g3 followed by knight f5. But I believe I'll gain counterplay down the h-file if I do that. Okay, so now let's play here, stopping knight g3. And I'm going to attempt to keep this side of the board closed for now. Actually, if I get one more move, I might play a3 so that whichever pawn black breaks with, I have a counter. Okay, let's go b4. They should play a3 almost certainly now, because they want to create some avenue for like the rook to come in and maybe eventually attack this b4 pawn. Meanwhile, I'm hoping I can get through on the king side, which I see I have a plan of going bishop f3, take the knight, and then pawn g6. That could be a way to pressure them. For their part, if black could play rook a4, knight b8, knight a6, and attack b4, then they could get something going on that wing. You know what I might do, though, is that after knight b8, maybe I'll just play king d2 and then rook b1 to defend that pawn. And ask them what their knight on a6 and their rook on a4 is really accomplishing. I have to be wary of pawn breaks. I don't want a pawn break to bite me here. All right, so we've got almost a minute advantage on the clock, and I still have a clear plan, and I think I'm defending against all of black's threats on this wing. So I'm optimistic. I'm going to try to time that capture. I may not do it right away. I may want to put a rook in position first, like maybe rook g1, although after take, g6, h4 would be hanging. So maybe I do want to play it right away. Hard to see how black should play here. This is not an easy position. Okay, let's come here. Not sure what queen e8 is all about. I think maybe they're trying to defend h5 a little bit better, but I'll just try to play a good move while I'm unclear about what black is up to. So rook g1. trying to figure out if there's a safer spot for my king. Like maybe I want to go rook b3 and then king c1, king b1, king a1 even. Maybe a3 is a weakness and I don't even have to try to break through on the king side. And the king side seems like the most direct route for me to pursue, but the queen side is no less interesting. Wow, and he's going to make that decision. I really doubt whether that's a good idea, but we'll find out. Okay, rook g5 now, rook g4 maybe. I could take on h5, but that doesn't accomplish much. Let's go rook g5. Maybe with the plan of doubling up. There's still some question about b4, but we'll see. So let's spend a moment thinking here. f4 is a little bit weak, isn't it? See, I don't mind spending a little time here. I think this is an important moment, potentially, in the game. A little worried they might crash through on that square if I don't do anything. But at the same time, okay, I'm going to make an interesting decision. I'm going to let them take b4, and then I'm going to play queen b1. So knight takes b4, queen b1 is the plan. I don't think losing the b4 pawn is going to kill me right now, and this is the most efficient way I see to attack g6 and try to win on the king side. It's very direct. Note that king h7 fails to bishop takes h5, and black would be unable to recapture. Wow, he's going to go for this. Didn't think he would do that. All right, well, let's take for sure. Knight takes or rook takes? What's it going to be? I assume their idea was rook takes, but maybe not. Okay, take there. Interesting. Let's do this all the same. He's got 30 seconds left. Not a lot of time to work with.
Check.
Okay. Bishop e2 or take on g6. Take on g6. He takes f3. Trade, trade, trade. His king is very open. What can I do with that? Also, b4 is loose too. Tough call right here. All right, I'm going to go for the material, because actually I think I could win their knight at the end of this line.
Check.
So he's going to give up
Check.
this, and then I take b4 at the end. Took me a moment to see all that, but looks like it pans out. All right, we get the win. He resigned. And look at that. We stayed a minute ahead right at the end. Okay, let's go back and take a look at that one. The way this opening played out actually reminds me of a different line that I sometimes play from the white side. It's in the Shevchenko variation, which is almost what we got here, except that I didn't put my pawn on d4 for a very long time. So I'm refraining from playing pawn d4 in the hopes that maybe my bishop on b2 becomes a force on that diagonal. So, and here knight h4, if black gets a chance, like say white plays something kind of lame like bishop e2, black might play h6 and try to preserve their light square bishop. So knight h4 was an attempt to disturb that bishop before it just gets to cleanly drop back to h7 and defend, retain the bishop pair. So here I'm chasing that piece and I win it. Now black is threatening knight takes g4 because of the pin on the h-pawn, so that's why I played bishop g2, bishop d6. These are positions I get into a lot as black. Like black has forfeited the bishop pair, but they have a very solid structure that white will have a hard time penetrating. And I decided to play d4 right here. Maybe I could play g5 right now, but I felt it was a little bit too early to do that. And earlier I was mentioning how I was trying to avoid playing d4 for the time being, but it just seems to me like right now that is a good way to gain some more center influence. I don't see me moving this knight and having the bishop in a real fearsome role on that a1, h8 diagonal, so I just opted to play d4 and take some space. But let's turn on the engine and see what it has to say. Yeah, d4 is the top move for the engine. Queen e7, and here I went for that g5 move. I think this was well timed. Yeah, and now h4 to defend the g5 pawn. So we've disturbed the knight a little bit and gained even more space on the king side. Originally, I was intending f4, but I really didn't like the possibility of black sacrificing here. Maybe this isn't even so good, but it looked a little scary. They get 2 pawns, and almost certainly they're going to win that pawn, unless I could play h4, but I doubt it. Something like that and pick it up, or maybe even rook takes h4 right away, followed by this. So that's why I rejected that move and played h4 instead. And black castled short, and I went long. Yeah, engine agrees, because if I castle short, I was afraid that g5 and h4 would be too weakened, and consequently my king would also feel the effects of that. So if black ever plays a move like f5, I can't take en passant, because after queen takes, this pawn is looking pretty lonely over here. So castling queenside and making this a sharper game seemed appropriate. My king wouldn't have as safe of a haven on the other side of the board. So b5, maybe black can try to arrange the initiative or their pawn storm better somehow, because it seemed like after b5, c5, the position closed down in white's favor. Yeah, I don't like this position for black. It looks difficult to play to me. The engine was also suggesting bishop a3 right here, trying to swap those bishops. That would be a nice thing for black to achieve, the trade of the dark square bishops, I think. It's counterintuitive because the bishop is good on d6, but if it can't attack anything, it might be better off just swapped for its counterpart on b2, which ensures that white will not have the pair of bishops going forward. Usually that trade is in black's favor slightly. But b5, c5, and then f4. It's important to play f4, otherwise black might try to break in the center with e5. So I'm playing to stop that. Now black played a5, and I just moved my knight away, so knight e2. I thought they may want to consider knight g3 right here, attacking the rook and maybe coming to f5, but it's actually possible that just doesn't do much to eventually stop h5. Maybe h5 isn't even good right away, but yeah, after something like this, which gets out of the way of any tactics like if h5 is played immediately, knight takes e3, rook takes e3, take here with the pin. So that's a nice thing for white to sidestep if I can. Just play the king over to b1 and try to hide a little bit. Yeah, so probably on the whole, like knight g3 to f5 is not wise for black. Even though it slightly improves the knight, it doesn't create a buffer anymore to my pawn coming to h5 and ripping open that h-file. So black played a5. I went knight e2. Yeah, and he quickly played a pawn move again. If black had played something inoffensive, like let's say black plays like rook fb8, trying to mask the forces over there, a really good idea to know is this so-called padlock pawn structure, which is if white were to play a3 here. And now we have 2 pawns for white opposing 2 pawns for black with a file in between. And what that means is that no matter which pawn black pushes, white can push the opposite pawn and close down the position. We ensure that the position will not open up on that wing. We don't have to trade pawns, and I can look forward to playing on the king side without any fear of an attack. So that's why black played a4 right away. Similarly, they might think about b4, because if they don't, I'm playing a3 myself, and I'm going to ensure that the position will be locked down. But still, after a4, it was hard for black to make progress. b4, a3, bishop c3, rook a4. All of this seems logical, going to attack the b4 pawn, but it's very slow, and I have a pretty easy time defending that. And I think this stage of the game, this is where that time really kicks in. It's interesting to make videos like this about time management more so than just the result of the game or the quality of the moves, because it really impresses upon you when you're ahead like a minute or so on the clock like this, and the position is otherwise pretty normal. It impresses upon you how important the time is, really. And in the game I lost to Alexander Injic in the final round of the UT Dallas Fall FIDE Open, that's what it came down to. The clock was the extra piece that white had in their arsenal. So, yeah, not only do I have a good position, but I'm doubling black up on time. I thought the queen e8 move was kind of strange. I really didn't understand that move, but I think that points to how difficult it is for black to come up with something here. Yeah, they spent about 30 seconds and then played queen e8. I think the idea is that after take, they can try to play f6 or f5, and the queen might participate in the defense on h5, but it looks very superficial. Nor will I take on h5 right away. I just played a useful move. So black probably should not lash out with f5, but even if they don't, there's so many ways that white can slowly build the initiative here. I mean, one very simple way to do it would be knight g3, trade the knights, and then go for h5 and get that h-file open. And then shift resources back to the h-file and try to checkmate black down it. And meanwhile, this is kind of a dead end. If black can't attack b4 any further, I'm fine on that wing. So black lashed out with f5. I took on passant. Here I played rook g5. Yeah, maybe rook g4 is a bit better. That also defends f4. I thought the benefit of rook g5 might be that I'm also hitting the knight, but rook g4 also looks good. Yeah, looks like I made the right call here. Here I spent some time. Okay, I spent 40 seconds on this move. But that was the benefit of having moved fast earlier, is that I actually put myself in a position to use the time when it really mattered, when I maybe had to find a direct attacking move to cash in on my advantage. So if I was playing like my normal style, I'd probably have like about the same amount of time as my opponent here, and maybe I wouldn't find rook dg1. I'd chicken out because the knight takes b4. Maybe I don't have time to calculate that I win the knight at the end of this forced line or semi-forced line. I guess black kind of went for it with knight takes f4. Yep.
Check.
Looks like this was well played. Yeah, here I thought about playing bishop e2, retaining the bishop, but I thought that black would move this rook now, like maybe rook f2, and then try to go queen f4. The engine says I can basically ignore that threat, and I'm fine. But that looks scary to me. So I didn't do that. I took on g6 instead, and we'll see if this also works. Rook takes f3. So the best move here is knight takes a2 for black. Hard move to spot. Just sacrifice the knight. And I can even go win their queen now. But what in the world is going on here? So if I take the knight, they take f3. And black is actually better, despite having two rooks against a queen and bishop. Probably because rook f2 is a big threat, and that a pawn is pretty dangerous. And the b pawn's even coming up. Maybe white can hold a draw somehow, but... Okay, so black would have to have found the very precise move, knight takes a2, to make this position work. But yeah, I mean, I gotta believe in the time pressure. Even this is not going to save them. Yeah, and I don't have to take the knight. I can play bishop h5, threatening this. Position's very messy, but with the time edge, I take white any day here. But as played, he took the bishop, and then we swapped and finally took on b4. Maybe resignation was a little premature. Black has some play here, like my queen is tied to the bishop. But with black having 24 seconds left, it's mostly a matter of just staying safe for white and not blundering. Okay, so I liked how this one went, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I'll be back again soon with another one. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.